Symphonia. On behalf of Team Symphonia, we appreciate your presence today. We are incredibly grateful for your continued support and belief in Symphonia, and your partnership is invaluable to us, and we are committed to deliver a long-term value for each and every one of you. Today we have put together a dynamic and informative agenda that I hope you'll be liking and it will be interesting. I would also like to extend a heartfelt welcome to our distinguished guests. As people celebrate Valentine's Day today, I feel there is a deep connection between good relationship and investing. Building relationship requires three parameters, three essential qualities. There is one, patience, the another one is understanding, and the last one is commitment. So investing also requires these qualities. So if you have patience, understanding, and commitment, you will be successful both in relationship and also you will be a good wealth creator. So with that note, let's start our evening with traditional ceremony, lighting of the lamp. I request our esteemed clients, Mr. Peter Malavalan sir, Mr. Mohan sir, Mr. Srivatsan sir, and Ms. Arasi, Mr. Manivanan sir, to be on stage, please. I would also request Mr. Amit Basu to be on stage. I request all to stay on stage for a photo, please, after this. Sir? Yes, stay back, sir. Thank you all. Now that we have officially begun the event, without further ado, I now invite Mr. Sundar Rajan, co-founder Symphonia Wealth, to give his opening remarks.
Vanakkam. Good evening and a very warm welcome to all of you. So being a weekday, thanks for taking your time and being on time. I think that is more important. Thank you so much, and the kind of trust what you have shown on us, I think thanks to that. So 10 years before we started this company, and 10 years have actually passed, and most of the clients who started relationship with us have actually continued their support, and they have also grown, and because of you, we have also grown. So thank you so much for that. So today, being the Valentine's Day, in fact, in the opening remarks, Rama was saying that there are three very important qualities for both the relationship as well as for the investments. But one thing I'm very happy today, being a Valentine's Day, first time my wife will not crib saying that I did not take her out, because she's with me now. So I think finally I have made my day. In fact, when I sent messages to all of my clients saying that don't forget to wish your wife, many people replied saying that thanks for reminding and making my life peaceful at least today. So thank you so much. So as we've been growing for the last 10 years, as a team we have also expanded. I thought this is a great opportunity to introduce our team. So let me invite our team members, Mr. Uttam, Mr. Tulasi Raman, Mr. Surender, Mr. Satya, Mr. Suresh, Mr. Mano. So now we are a 8-member team. And we also have our Symphonia partner from Nasik, Mr. Yuvraj, and the wife, both of them have come. Please be on stage. And also it is their anniversary, marriage anniversary. So in spite of that, so thanks for all your support, and some of you would be already interacting with some of our colleagues already. So let me also join for the group photo. Rama? So thanks for the trust what you have shown on us, and we also would like to keep improving us and try and offer you more products and services going forward. So today we have actually curated a very nice program where we are going to speak about, of course, markets. I think markets are actually keeping all of us on tender hooks. But what is very good is some of our clients have actually not called us, because the kind of maturity what they have developed over the period of time and the kind of cycles what they have seen in the market, the calls are more to ask should we invest money at this point of time, and definitely not at a panic level. Of course, there are few clients who also had some concerns, but naturally that's part and parcel. But over a period of time, as we evolve, as investors evolve and as advisors we evolve, I think it's a good journey to be in. So today we have actually got some of the best minds who can speak about markets. So we have Mr. Krishna Singh Sangvi from Mahindra Manulife, and also Mr. Janaki Raman, who will be speaking on the markets. And we also have somebody very interesting speaker and more needed for all of us, who is going to speak about succession planning and the importance of will writing. Mr. Jatin is here with us today. And we also have Mr. Mohammad Basha from Baroda BNP Paribas, who will be speaking about the biases what as investors we carry and how do we avoid so that we can actually make the returns what market delivers. Because if you look at over the last 20 years, 30 years, the markets have actually given a lot of returns, but not every investor has made that kind of return. So what is the difference? The difference is actually the client himself. So anyone who can manage his emotions and the behavior have actually made that kind of money. And he is going to help us understand how we can identify and eliminate those biases so we can also grow along with the market. And last but not least, our CEO, Amit Basu, is also going to speak about how to look at investing in the long run. So he has come up with some very interesting slides. I had the privilege of seeing those slides well before you. Those were very interesting. So with that, let me once again welcome you all, and sit back and relax and enjoy the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Moving to next, I would now request Mr. Amit Basu, CEO Symphonia Wealth, to share his thoughts. Before that, I would call Mr. Sundar to welcome him with Angavastram.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Symphonia Summit 2025. It's happening after a gap of a year. The last time we met was in 2023. A lot of things have changed, but few things have remained the same, and it will remain timeless because things don't change so often in the world of investing. Now, I thought I'll start with a quick, I would say, quiz or a puzzle for you. Being a Valentine Day today, can you guess this word? Right? So a lot of people will understand that this word is love, but we are in love with this word, and that word is not love. So when we do practice or when we do this business, we love this word, and its word is not love. So what can this word be? And this is the word that we are in love with. Okay, it's called goal. You have come here in search of some goal. We are here for some goal, and everybody on this planet is for some goals. And when we talk about investments and finance, and specifically about your finance, we have some goals in mind. Okay, and those goals are very personal, and a lot of them are not very generic. So when I say goals, it means your personal goals. And after the initial puzzle about the goal, we want you to do some little activity. It can be an imaginary activity, or you can use your pencil and notebook in front of you. And I just pause for 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Can you draw a tree? If you have a paper and a pencil in front of you, can you draw a tree? And if you don't have it, just think of a tree that you can imagine. What kind of a tree will be thought in your imagination? You don't need to be very good in terms of building or creating this picture. Just draw something which you can do in 10, 15 seconds. Right, last 5 seconds. Okay, we can stop. How many of you have drawn a tree which looks like this? Can you raise your hand? Okay. And how many of you have drawn a tree which looks like this? Anyone? Okay. So basically what we draw, basically what we see, we draw. We don't see the roots. Okay. So we don't see the roots very often, but if the roots are not there, the tree won't be stable, the tree won't exist. So what we see, we draw. And if you look at the financial tree, it's very similar to this tree. I'll just quickly go through this. So what you are seeing on the top are products, right? You're seeing mutual funds, equity, real estate, gold, and many more. They're all like the fruits and the flowers and the leaves of a tree, which we can see. But what can make this tree stable are the roots. And if you look at the roots, there are 5, 6 things. We'll cover a few of them today. Emergency, home, retirement, state planning, protection, and budget. So these are the things which are required to make the financial tree stable. And if you connect the top with the bottom, the tree will be stable. So if you're buying anything on the top, make sure you have a connection with something at the root level. So don't buy something which has got no connection. Whatever you're going to buy, make sure you have a connection. And if you don't have a connection, then don't buy or question yourself that why are you buying this? Your job is to make this financial tree stable. So remember the tree, remember the roots, remember the shoots, the visible part, the invisible part, and then whenever you take a decision for investments next time, clearly understand what's the connection. The goal that we talked about normally looks like this when you ask someone, okay, I have a goal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the amount. this is slightly incomplete. There is something missing. And what is missing is this. We have to clearly define the goal. We have to clearly define the cost which is available, which is the cost of the goal today. We have to identify the year in which it has to be accomplished and the cost of that goal in that year in which it has to be accomplished, and what's the priority, low priority, medium priority, or high priority. Once you have this goal sheet in front of you, because goals keep on changing. When I started a SIP in 2010 for my son who was born, my goal was to make some kitty in 2028 when he's 18. It was a long-term goal. Today we're in 2025, it's a short-term goal. So I have to treat my corpus as a short-term goal now, not as a long-term goal, because that was 15 years back. So your goal moved from long-term to medium-term to short-term to immediate. And your portfolios have to also change accordingly. Otherwise, you may find that there's a misalignment in portfolio and versus the goal when it's coming to an end. So keep that dynamism of goal in mind while evaluating your portfolios, and hence match your asset classes according to your goals. So this is just an illustration, an example that which goal for which asset class and which scheme and which product it needs to be matched, else you may not have a, you call it asset liability mismatch in banking system, you will have a mismatch here also, and hence it is to be avoided. And then periodic review of goals, and where the portfolio is actually aligned or attuned to make sure that the goals are accomplished. Now assume there's a flight which is between Chennai and US, say Chennai and Washington, which goes every day, and for last 5 years it's going. And there have been no instances where any of the safety instrument has been used. Okay. They've never used a safety belt, they've never used oxygen mask, it's going on very smooth. And the airline decide that basis the customer feedback or the passenger feedback, will remove one of the safety items and will give you a 1% discount on price. Okay. So which of these 4 items will you remove, or will you agree to eliminate from this flight? Will you remove anything from this for a 1% discount? No. So when your safety standards or your preventive measures are in place, you may not be very observant about it, but absence of them scares us. So that's what happens with risk control also, and with presence of expert also. So presence is sometimes not felt, but absence is immediately felt, and it sometimes scares us that we are not using them. So nobody wants a 1% discount on price at the cost of removing the safety measures which have never come to use, which have never been used for last 5 years. But we want to keep them. So there's a cost of keeping safety measures and risk control in the portfolio, and that cost must be kept in mind. So we can't shoot for the moon or the stars at the risk of crashing to the ground. We have to keep some safety measures, risk control in our portfolios, and sometimes there's a small cost for that. This is a very well-known formula, compound interest formula. People know how it works. I have a question for you. So this is a simple illustration. A 10,000 rupees per month SIP at 10% in 10 years would get us to 20 lakh 14,000. So there are 3 parts. One is the principal amount, one is the time, and one is the rate of interest. And you have the choice of doubling any one of them. You can make 10,000 20,000. You can make 10% 20%. You can make 10 years 20 years. What is the risk? What is the impact on the final amount? So if you ask someone this question, what will be your answer? What would you like to double? Time, rate, or principal? Yes, time. Okay. Rate, somebody said rate, somebody said time. So if you double the rate, that 20 lakh 14,000 will become 34 lakh 43,000. If you double the principal, it will become 40 lakh 29,000. If you double the time, it will become 72 lakh 39,000. Now, sometimes time is not in your hand. If you want to achieve something in next 10 years and you don't have 20 years in your hand, you don't have time. Rate of return is a function of how markets behave. which is again not in your hand. So the only thing which you can control is the principal amount. So first of all, rate is not the hero. The hero is principal and time. And sometimes time is not in your control because your goals have a deadline. What is in your control is principal. So focus on P if T is not on your side, right? And this is something which we normally forget, that principle also is very important. Now I'm in a city of Chennai which has produced a world champion, so I'm just using a board of chess, that if you are a grandmaster, okay, and I assume a lot of you know how to play chess or the basics of chess. Show of hands, please. You know chess? Okay. So this is the most important piece on your board, because if this is not there, the game is over. Okay. And these are your goals. So they have to be protected. This has to be protected at any cost, right? The queen, which is the most powerful piece on the board, is actually your asset allocation. So if you have an asset allocation in place, it has got the capability to protect your goals. So that's the most powerful piece. The second most powerful piece that you have to apply on the board of chess and on your portfolio is risk control. And this risk control is typically top-down, bottoms-up. This also moves like horizontally and vertically, somewhat like similar to top-down, bottom-up. Then you have the most adaptable piece. This can go forward, come back. This is the only piece which can jump over another piece, right? Which is your financial expert, your companion. You have the most anchored piece, which can only move in one direction, which can only move in one style, which is on the white boxes or black boxes. And these are your biases, you have to control that. And you have the first line of defense, which is the product line that you have. So if you have any gap in the product line, you can get attacked. So what all products you need, you must have that as a first line of defense. So we'll talk about few of them in our presentations as we go ahead in the evening. But this is something which is important for all of us to remember. So on a piece of, on a board of chess, just like these pieces have got some capability and ability, something similar is happening in our portfolios, which can remind us of chess in Chennai. Two messages to end with. Okay.
Because you have to get up at 6:30, you go to sleep at 10. Because you have to train in the morning, go to eat right at 8 o'clock dinner. Because you just came back from training, then you have to eat lunch at 1. So the whole day is a process.
Discipline.
So somebody asked me someday, like, how does magic on the pitch happen? I was thinking to myself, there's no magic, there's no mantra, it's just small, small thing, and that's what eventually something great happens.
Wow.
So every day, small, small things and something great happens.
Every girl needs to be financially independent. So you're not just someone's wife or someone's daughter or someone's sister. Your identity will be defined by your ability to be independent. And that comes with finance in the world that we live today.
So thank you so much for your patient hearing. That was the only message I had for you. Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful insight, sir. Let me now call upon Mr. Uttam to present the memento to Mr. Amit Basu. Thank you, sir. I also remember a quote on goal. This goal without a plan is just a wish. So have a goal, plan, and act accordingly. Now, moving on to the next. Life is inherently risky. There is only one big risk you should avoid at all costs, and that is the risk of doing nothing. So our first guest speaker is going to address this, and he is going to elaborate on intelligent risk-taking. I now invite Mr. Krishna Sanghvi, Chief Investment Officer, Mahindra Manulife AMC, to share his thoughts on the topic. I request Mr. Sundar to welcome him with Angavasram. Just a minute, sir. Mr. Krishna Sangvi is an ICWA from Institute of Cost and Works Accountants of India and also holds MMS Finance. He has 28 years of work experience across lending, debt management, and equity management. So he has worked with Canara Robeco Asset Management for 5 years and stint 15 years with Kotak Mahindra Group across mutual fund, life insurance, and car finance businesses. The senior roles held by him in mutual fund businesses include Head of Equities at Canara Robeco AMC, Aviva Life Insurance, and Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company. Over to you, sir.
So I have taken some intelligent risk while making this presentation. I hope it meets the requirement, expectations, and unlike many of you, as Sundarajan mentioned, spouse, I am here alone. So that's another risk I have taken to be in Chennai on a Valentine Day. Hopefully I am back in Mumbai. Unfortunately, it will be tomorrow morning rather than tonight. So that's a risk I have taken. That's an intelligent risk. I hope it's really gonna be there. We started with Valentine Day. So what best to express, the concept of sorry. So just needs to be aware that video is not playing. Perfect. So this is something pretty interesting. Everybody should be aware, what Mr. Lincoln said some 250, 300 years ago. Please don't believe everything just because it is a picture of a person quoting. That's the first need to be aware. In this world, there are too many messages floating in and out on multiple things in life. Somebody's picture, somebody's message, and somebody can easily use. This danger is going to increase as you go more and more into the concept called AI. AI can use my face and Amit's voice and somebody else's presentation all into one. So just be aware going ahead. That's one part I'll possibly say. So that's something. Is the same presentation? Are you sure? Good. Otherwise, the risk, the translation between the person who's made versus who's presenting can actually create a headache. So we got this great gentleman, Mr. Buffet. Everybody knows him, despite nobody would have met. I'm sure in this room only 1% chance. So 1 out of these 100 people might have met, but everybody knows him. He's got 2 nice quotes on intelligent risk. The first is, never jump into a unknown territory or unknown water with both the feet. Put first feet, then try to find a balance, and then do the second round. You can call it asset allocation, you can call it risk control, but that's what he said. Second, he says it's not as necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. What he just is missing is, just do intelligent things rather than doing extraordinary things, and things will play out in your favor.
लोचा लफड़ा और जलेबी फाफड़ा, इसे गुजराती की लाइफ से कोई निकाल नहीं सकता।
भाई डायलॉग बाजी ठीक है, लेकिन इसमें बहुत रिस्क है।
रिस्क है तो इश्क है।
Every day the market ends in a red color, you will find some video coming from somebody giving this kind of message. And that message is not wrong, by the way. Only thing the message says clearly is that risk can't be emotional, it has to be intelligent. While ishq or love can never be intelligent, it has to be emotional. Maybe 1% chance, which we see in movies at times, saying this is an intelligent love and not an emotional love, but the remaining 99% of times is going to be emotional now. But unfortunately, while taking a risk, you can't be emotional. You know, as Amit clearly said, that 1% discount, can it change your preference for opting one of the 4 items out? And it can't be emotional, right? Just because I'm saving some money, can I afford to go without a air mask or without a seat belt, on that flight? So just be aware. Don't get trapped into something which it's too good to be true. But just because it's available at a cheap price or some discount, please be aware that it's not worth taking that risk.
लोचा लफड़ा
Yep. So that's a game we all play in life. We all play the game which says that there is a risk return trade, there is a game. So let's say we're playing a game of dice, a single die you play, so you get 6 outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No one knows. If anybody remembers that movie Sholay, and I'm taking a chance of using a Hindi quote right now, Gabbar Singh says, "Iske kaun se khane mein goli hai, mujhe pata nahi hai," right? So when you play a die, you just don't know what outcome will be there. So theoretically, it's equal probability of just simple 1/6 chance for anyone. But you add the second variable. The second variable happens to be second dice, and then suddenly you have a nice chance. The minimum total can be 2. Suddenly the 1 disappears because 2 dice, even if you get 1 on both, the minimum is 2, max is 12. You add the third, and obviously the complications and the iterations can vary. You'll have minimum 3 and maximum 18. So what it gives you is, yeah, I'm really sorry, this is not the presentation. There's that risk has played out of not handling the slide of it. Yeah, same example. You got this picture. So what you have is a nice scenario where the 6 happens to be let's say, the most recurring item is 7. When you add up the 2 number count on those 2 dice, and the probability of getting that 6 is 16.7. But everything else changes, and if somebody's playing a bet, you should know that the minimum return expectations should be placed on the maximum probability game. But moment you start betting on wider outcomes, the risk return trade-off, as what we say, has to play out, because that's what, let's say, the game is all about, which is how nicely explained by Howard Mark. This slide is taken from one of his presentation, where he's basically highlighted the concept that as the risk and return profile changes on that line, which is starting. So if you're playing with a 1 die, the return line is the first line. It's just a straight axis called y-axis. But as you move up, the theoretical distribution of that particular line starts changing. The outcomes start varying. We call it fate, tail risk and all that stuff. But the message is very simple. As you keep on adding more variables to your whatever life, either in market or in real life, things change. So, when you go in real life, there is economy, there is business, there are markets. The real life is going to have some more distribution, and we just need to be aware of outcomes need not be as per your expectations. So again, one more real life picture. You got 3 things in life which you have an option. So somebody says this particular item will make quick money for you. It says the quality is good, and third it says cheap valuations. But you can choose one of the 3, any 2 of the 3. One you have to compulsorily drop, and you just don't know what you will drop, because if you end up choosing something which is cheap and expectation of quick returns combination, 99% of times it won't be a good quality, right? So just be aware. So if you're doing that game, I'm not saying that game is bad, but you need to be aware that if I choose this option of something which is quick return expectation as well as cheap in valuation, on an average, I'll buy something which is bad quality. It may work out, may not work out. If I'm buying good quality and cheap valuation, the returns won't be quick. I'll have to wait. I'll have to be patient. That tree, which Amit mentioned, tree takes time to bear fruits. And if you go for good quality and cheap valuation, combination is what you said, and then quick returns and good quality, it won't be cheap. You have to buy at a price which is much expensive. Very unique, very rare. Honestly speaking, I've done it for the concentric circle combination, but practically, you find that 1 in 1,000 opportunity where it might fit into there. Very rare. Otherwise, you need to choose between the three. Either it's good, or it's cheap, or it's value, or it's quick in terms of return expectations. So there is a concept of dumb risk and intelligent risk, right? So I've given two examples of, we all play cards. So there's a simple game, Tin Patti, and the difficult game called poker. Tin Patti is very similar to that one die example. You know your cards, that's it. Other 6 people who are playing, you just don't know. But because you are confident on your own game, you keep on playing, and someday you decide, enough is enough, let me walk out, or let me play, and some end up losing. If you're playing poker, you play not on your 2 cards, and you know the other 5 cards, which means you know the potential combination somebody else on the same table can have. You don't know the reality because still that cards are open, but it's still an intelligent game vis-a-vis a dumb risk game called Tin Patti. By the way, both are good games, so I'm not differentiating, but when we're playing some of this, let's be aware that there can be a nice combination of intelligent risk versus dumb risk, which can play out. Talking about risk, finally, let's be very clear in life. We are going to measure our outcome first, and risk is just going to be forgotten when the hindsight, because it's always going to be process versus outcome, skill versus luck. So take a look at this picture. It's not only about investment, can be for anything in life, it can be for studies, etc. But net, what you're saying is in a graph which says there is short term, long term, and there is skill and luck. If you are going to get more right in the short term, it can be attributed more to luck. If you're going to get it more right in the longer term, is going to be attributed to your skill, is how one should read. So your process is a choice, your product is an outcome, and time decides. Process is nothing but skill, patience, discipline, while outcome is luck, rationale, and maturity. It doesn't mean only luck, by the way, but you need a maturity to accept the outcome is possibly the message. So luck leads to FOMO, and skill leads to JOMO. What is JOMO? Anybody, any guess? Sorry? That is FOMO. What is JOMO? Perfect. It's joy of missing out. Again, it's an intelligent risk. I don't want to participate in this particular category of investment. Don't want to have that deadly combination of cheap and quick stock where I'm actually compromising the good quality, if you go to the previous slide. So that's the message. If you're choosing something, yeah, it has an outcome, but JOMO is not bad. JOMO is actually sometimes makes sense in life. So it's either fine or it's a fine. Don't forget, okay? It's a fine art, yes, but if the art doesn't play out, you have to pay a fine. You can't escape. Okay, so that's how this is fine is what the message is. Can you identify every risk? I'm not going to read out, but yeah, broad message is simple. Can you identify every risk? Can you eliminate every risk? Can you wait to eliminate every risk? Is it worth waiting? I mean, as I think, can you say, I don't want to take any risk and just don't do anything? That's the only risk you take in life, right? So you can't simply say no risk. It's just question of choosing what. So accept that future is a lottery ticket, hence outcome can be certain, uncertain, and risky. So one needs to be learning about, how to evaluate the outcome. Is it outcome-based issue? Is it a process-based issue? Or is it input-based issue? So it's like this. If I have to reach Chennai airport by 8:30, okay, and if I am going to start now, it's an input issue. It's not, outcome issue. I'm not going to reach on time. But if I start at 5:30 for 8:30 flight, then it's an outcome issue. In the sense that for some reason there is unexpected traffic, and then my 45-minute journey becomes 1 hour 45-minute journey because some minister is passing, something happening which can't be predicted. But if I start without a opening gap, obviously it's a input issue, right? So that's how I'll classify. So intelligent risk, I'm just trying to differentiate three words. Some of this is pure English, but trust me, it works. What's knowledge? What all you can do. What's intelligence is what to do, and wisdom possibly says what not to do. Because sometimes your sheer experience, your sheer maybe sometimes knowledge is an outcome of that experience, but experience tells you कि ये नहीं करना चाहिए. Imagine how many of us, while crossing the road, in a very simplistic example, you just walk out of this hotel and go to cross the road. Some people just walk through, some people wait, right? So, and you exactly know that the guy somewhere knows, say, मुझे नहीं जाना चाहिए, and I'll wait for it. Whether because linked to your age, because linked to your thought process or risk, I don't know the answer. If somebody wants to release a movie on a long weekend, you have a choice. You do it on the exam weekend or you do it on a festival weekend. I'm sure the distributor will think to do it on a festival weekend, not an exam weekend, because initial collection can be horribly bad. Okay. So be a skeptic. It says that if you don't know what you don't know, that gets into trouble. It's what you know for sure. So set some limits on your confidence. Overconfidence typically can be very dangerous. Is one way. Intelligent risk taking. Best example is life insurance companies. I'm sure he's going to talk a little bit about will, which is nothing but linked to life insurance somewhere in life, because will is applicable when life insurance policy matures. So so you have a case where every insurance company knows the person is going to die. Still they're willing to insure. Why? Because they're playing the game. They're playing the game of probability, playing the game of timing, where the death is certain but not the time, and there are so many people, so probability is going to hit very few. So be aware of that risk can turn into loss, but it's still worth taking the risk, is what the insurance company business model tells you. You read any book in history about, by the way, there are too many insurance companies which have gone bankrupt in the world. But from whatever I am aware, not a single insurance company has gone bankrupt by paying claims. They've gone bankrupt by making some wrong calls on investment or on asset allocation, or some stupid things like derivatives they would have done. But nobody has a case, even if this California kind of crisis happened on this fire, insurance company won't go into bankruptcy. Yeah, but if they do something wrong on your investment front, asset allocation, risk control, something can go wrong for you. So that's a message, So sometimes better be roughly right than precisely wrong, because if you want to go for precision, you can be in trouble. How many have seen this movie, Lucky Bhaskar? Okay, I have just given my summary of this movie. So what happened in this movie? If for somebody who's not seen, please see. It's worth a 2-hour watch on the weekend maybe. So this guy starts on a small scale, taking some risk. He takes some money out as a bank treasurer. Over the weekend, gives loan to his friend or somebody and makes interest income out of it. And Monday morning, gives it back in the bank before everybody comes to know. He starts very small scale. It's a risk, obviously, but he does a very small. Someday, outcome is good, so he doubles the bet, triples the bet. By the way, everybody does this in market on F&O and derivatives. Don't make a mistake. Okay, so it's just an example of overnight money in bank versus F&O, but net message is same. Moment you make another success, scale gets bigger and bigger, stakes turn very high, and then something happens which says an intelligent risk suddenly becomes a greedy risk. All your brains suddenly get out of the equation and you just run after money. You need some lucky savior. You see what movie will tell you somebody came to be lucky savior for that fellow. So at times, your ability to disassociate with greedy risk is required. Are you lucky? Are you intelligent? I don't know the answer. Being lucky matters more than being intelligent. Luck can come from anyone, anywhere, anytime. And you need to be humble, to be open to somebody coming to give you that gyan. So that's the art. I think enough of theory, let's do practice. Anybody for this? How many want to be lucky and not intelligent? Only one? Good. Because finally, the outcome is going to be driven by luck. It's not going to be, however hard you try, you just don't know. And Amit Bhai said something about the 10-year, 20-year. But if that 20th year happens to be the Lehman Brothers crisis and world markets down, it's not in your control, right? So somewhere that luck part, despite all the intelligence, can play out. Coming to, I'm sure this is one of the agenda items in the evening. So you all have chance to pick your cake, and people get their own level of what do you say? क्या बोलते हैं? Indoctrination. I don't know the actual word, but we all get into that, based on what we think is right for us. But there also where to stop is intelligent risk, right? First class, second class, third, whatever suits you in terms of your physical capabilities possibly matters. So that's a part of it's a matter of choice. That's what I'll say. Come to risk in markets. Too many risks, right? Every day morning we read Trump sir ne kuch bol diya, Modi ji ne kuch bol diya, and then what happens to market? Someday Trump says edit, undo, and next day morning things reverse. But reality is, there is politics, there is geopolitics, there is economy, there is weather, there is policy risk, currency, management, obsolescence, you name it, and I can, I'm sure, add multiple things. So there is concept of going concern or concern going, so anybody who's done his chartered accountancy will, possibly vouch. The first principle of accounting is called going concern. All accounts are prepared on going concern. That's exactly same about equity and markets. Markets are made up of going concern. None of these variables would have been different 10 years, 15 years, 5 years back. Whether it's India or US, these variables keep on happening, concerns keep on remain, markets keep on going. And what keeps on going is basically markets because of time, demography, maybe you call it productivity, call it that AI, whatever word you can use, but net, all these concerns over last 20 years we all have seen. It's finally your ability to ignore that comes from, if you're not lucky, can you manage it by longer horizon? Again, same thing, 10-year example, 20-year example, how the outcome has suddenly varied in terms of, rupee value of your saving accumulated over time. So that's, I think, last, maybe one, is the last slide. Can you play this? Asset allocation, that's it. Again. So don't overdo. Okay, when everybody is running to one side of the room, some smart people realize ज़्यादा हो रहा है, let me be other side. You can call it contra, you can call it value, you can call it risk management, whatever word, but the reality is that, you need some sage counsel, some nice guy to come and say, okay, enough is enough, let's do something different. So that's, I think, mainly from my end, and thank you.
Thank you very much for that very informative presentation, sir. There were many takeaways. One thing that got stuck in my mind was the difference between knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom. Knowledge is like what all can be done. Intelligence is like what should be done, and wisdom is what is not to be done. Yeah, so that was very interesting, and thank you very much, sir. I would now call Mr. Tulsi to felicitate Mr. Krishna Sangvi with a memento. Thank you, sir. Our next topic is going to be very interesting and the most wanted one by many of our investors, and it's about succession planning. I now invite Mr. Jatin Popat, CEO, Will Genie Succession Services, to throw some light on succession planning for our investors. I request Mr. Sundar to welcome him with Angavastram. Please be on stage. Mr. Jatin Papat is the founder and CEO of Will Genie, India's first and most trusted succession services company. They help families write a will, family trust, and all kinds of inheritance services. A lawyer and company secretary by qualification with over 30 years of experience in the legal space. Mr. Jatin's company, Will Genie, has served 15,000 plus customers across 480 cities and 32 countries in past 10 years. His company, Will Genie, is also the official estate planning partner for HDFC, ICICI, Tata, IAFL, and S Group. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Symphonia, Amit ji, Sundar, and a very interesting session taken by Mr. Krishna, something that we learn together. So the topic today that I want to cover is very interesting topic for many people because many knowledge gap is there in the market. People want to know lot more about it. It has not been talked widely by most of the financial advisors or maybe banks or maybe government, anybody. The company that we work is a Will Genie. Our tagline is succession simplified. So we want to simplify the succession matters, including the stock, okay? So today also we are going to talk in a very simpler manner. Time given to me is around 15 minutes. I will talk mostly the basics, and anybody has any further interest, they can connect to Sundar and we can give more information, whatever way we can help you to understand this topic. And thereafter, whatever you want to decide, you can decide in your life. So that is something you want to take it forward. So basically, what we are talking here is the circle, life circle, right? And what happened here? The planning for our education, planning for kids' education. Everybody has done, I believe, right? And that's how the life works, that we start planning basically, initially for our own educational planning. I want to become an engineer, I want to become a chartered accountant, I want to become the lawyer or whatever. And then that is how we started. Same thing repeats again when you are around, say, 35, 40, kid is now 20, 16, 17 years, and then we start planning for them. So this is a repeat exercise for you as well as your kid. Career, again same, for us as well as for the kid. So we do career planning after our education, that what we are going to do, a job or a profession or a business, what we are going to do, we are going to work for somebody else, for self also. That has been done. Again, after a few years, we sit with the kid. If they listen to us, then we try to discuss the career for them, and together we decide upon. Next, after the career, we start earning. And after earning, it is savings that comes in the place, okay? So saving is one of the part that we have done maybe when we are around 28, 29, 30 years, when some savings remains with us after our expenses. So that saving could be from business or whatever career that we opt. Then comes the investment. And here comes the heroes of today, Mr. Amit, Mr. Sundar, Mr. Krishna, mutual fund, all the wealth advisors and financial planning. They are in your life, which comes mostly, I see, in my experience, when you are 40 or something. And that is the time where you start learning the investment game, how to invest, where to invest, what the risk to be taken, how many years you will invest, and all those stuff. Then again, they come at a bigger level to you to multiply your investment. And that is something, the stock market, the mutual fund, they will work with you very closely to multiply your thing. Then we start diversification, F&O, gold, property, business, startup, many things you will do, AIF. So these are the various diversifications you might do. And this is actually, we have seen some of the customers, they have taken a call, they have a plot of land, they have got properties here, India, some investment in US, some investment in gold, some investment in patents, all these things they do, artifacts and all. The remain is something which we are discussing today. So this is our logo. So this is the last piece. What we trying to discuss is succession planning. I believe that these slides are made by my son. He has made succession planning as a topic. If I would have made, I would have made two things, succession planning and retirement planning. Because retirement planning is a broader happiness, which my son has not included. Obviously, he is talking about his succession. So yes, today I am restricting to succession because retirement planning is much, much bigger term for the happiness of our retired life, not only the succession of money. So today the topic is to succeed your wealth, okay? Succeed your wealth, how you want to do it, and that planning is what I think most of the people miss it because of the various occupations in their life for money matters, for the social matter, for the family matter. This thing is not very interesting for them. This is karenge, we'll do it later. Okay, that is the thing, standard everybody thinks, but it is not the life, right? Yes, we have seen the risk is there. Famous personalities, they have passed away. One of the also Mr. Cyrus, who met with an accident, Mr. Cyrus Mystery, and suddenly went 70,000 crore of wealth left behind without any planning. Okay. These are the celebrities. They also untimely went away. The issue here is two facts of the life that we all are mortal. Nobody is immortal here. Everybody has to go somewhere. Second thing is we don't have expiry date, okay, like a product. Like many products we have seen, without date of expiry, it is illegal to sell. Here, as a human being, we don't carry date of expiry. And that is where the combination of, we being a mortal and we don't have a date of expiry, one has to be very cautious. One has to start planning, okay? We do planning for many items in your life. At all these things we have seen, we have done investment, insurance planning, medical planning, tax planning, everything we are doing. But this some planning which is relating to our estate, what we have earned, how and what to be, where to be distributed to the family, how it will go, whether they will have difficulty, whether they will take it smoothly, whether they will be fight, there will be tax on it. So many things are that we don't know, and we should know at least basics, and then you can take your time to decide. But awareness is what we are doing today, and same thing, you should start learning and thinking about that, okay, planning of succession is also very, very important. It's a part of your whole life cycle. The last piece is also important, and that can be, again, changed. Every year we do investment planning, tax planning, insurance planning. Same thing, succession planning also, you can review every year also. That's not a problem, but at least do it. So there are 2-3 aspects in the succession planning which we'll touch upon today, just for the sake of this discussion. So there is a concept called a will document, which is called wasiyat in some of the Hindi term, and will is common document which is used in almost all the countries. So in India also, will is being made as a basic document which is broadly covers your wishes, that what you want to whom you want to give these assets. That is the only basic document, that this is a declaration that you are doing, that this is my assets and this is what I want to give it to them. And it's nothing very complicated, right? So first thing is why? Why will? See, today, please understand that family members doesn't know what you are doing, what finances you have, where you are invested, what are the things. In fact, many of us ourselves also sometimes doesn't know where the investments are made. When we sit down with the financial planner, when our insurance consultant, then we come to know what we are doing. So even we don't know sometimes that whatever we are doing, the family is, no, they will never know. So it is good to write a will which include all your asset detail, what you are doing, right? Today. It may change every day, every month, every year. That is fine. It is all okay. But at least you write down in a piece of paper. It could be your Google sheet, it could be your common diary, but writing on a will is also important because they will know that something is there where you are investing your money. they will immediately come to know with the piece of document. Okay? They may use it immediately after the death, or you can change it every time, whenever you want. So this information is missing in the family, which is what we want to give it via will document. And this helps them to claim it. Please note that more than 5 lakh crore rupees sitting with the government, because some people have not claimed it from the insurance company, mutual fund, the shares, many provident fund, many places, and this ultimately goes to the government after a few years. Why? Because either they have not told to their family, or the family have tried to search for the treasure hunt, but they could not find, and it is sitting in the government. In fact, after sitting in the government, if somebody comes to know, like IPF share, now many people must be getting Instagram reels on to claim IPF share. Today, if you want to claim your IPF share of your parent or a grandparent, it takes not less than 2 years, okay? And the people who are helping you, again, they will charge you. So all these things, why? Because somebody has missed informing to the family. They went away, and the asset is also went somewhere else. So is this something you want? If not, then at least write in a will and keep it, so that family will able to at least reach out and claim it. Okay. Now, this will document can solve both the problem, whether the family will know what is there with you, secondly, whom you want to give. Many a time, if will is not there, earlier we used to say that, okay, if husband is passed away, wife will take the call, or if the joint business is that family, one brother is not there, the second brother will take a call. That was all accepted norms, customs, tradition that we follow. Today the time has changed, okay? The money is becoming more powerful than the relations. And in this social new scenario, it is good to have at least information to the family, how much you want to give it to whom. Maximum, we have seen the will in the spouses, they give everything to spouse and after to the kids. And these are the scenarios happening. But you should mention. If you're not mentioned, then kids also have a legal right. They also can claim from your spouse if at all they want. So why you want to keep this ambiguity that whom you want to give? So writing on a simple piece of paper, who stops you? You are taking life insurance every year. You take mediclaim every year. So that planning you are doing for certain risks and certain events. So even for this death, that is, you always try to make that will is death connected. No, it is a plan. That something, if at all happens, that how it is to be distributed to the family members. So there are ways to create a will. There are online wills, there are offline will. You can reach out to the lawyers, you can reach out to the various companies who help you. One of the companies that we are doing is our Will Genie. We are doing a will to many people in India. There are so myths around in the common man that why a will is not done, or why it is not to be made, or I want to avoid it. Then, so some people say, okay, I don't have much of wealth. This will is to be made by the people with a very huge wealth and all. What we want to say that even if you have got one single policy of insurance, 50 lakhs rupees, if you want to leave it, the insurance company will definitely give if something happens. But whom to give, you are not told to insurance company. You might have given nomination, but you wish to say that I want to give it to so-and-so person. That this information is not there with the family. So even a basic asset, some FD, some insurance, some shares, investment, whatever wealth you have got, you have to make a will. In our view, each household in India should have one will, because for each household in India, the house property itself is a major wealth to most of the population, say 90%. Rest 10% are HNI people, they have multiple wealth, multiple houses. But for other people, one house is a major property. And even if you have one house, then please make a will. So at least that clarity is there, whom this house to be given. So this is a myth that if I have a major wealth, I've got 10 crore, 50 crore, then only I have to make a will. Sorry, not like that. Even if you've got a small wealth, a house or a bank account or FD, you should make a will. Otherwise, the family will not know how to be given to distribute within the family. People are saying, yes, I have made nominees, my demat account has nominee, my flat in cooperative society I have a nominee, I have my bank account, FD, everything is nomination is there. Please note, nomination is not a legal owner. Nomination is just a receiver of the money as a trustee. So today, if something happens to a person and he has made nominee wife or daughter or son, whatever, they can approach and they can collect the money. So they can just collect and keep it, but to whom? They have to distribute to the legal heir as per the will or as per the succession law. So let us be very clear that the nominee is just a trustee, a custodian. They can keep the money, they are not owning it, they are not owners. So legally, technically, so many fights happen in many families that come to us that see some person has taken this money and is not giving us the thing. How do we collect it? There is a legal fight start from there only because people don't know this basic concept. Nomination is just to hand over property from the bank or a mutual fund or any company to the family member. So at least institution gets out. They don't want to be in the fight of the family. They are out, they have handed over the property. So that is the law government has made to be safe for the institution. They don't want to go and be a party to the so many cases around family. So they are out. Once they have handed over to the nominee. Then the family has to decide who is the legal heir. If there is a will, then to the person to whom the name is mentioned to be given. If will is not made, then say as per the Hindu Succession Act, a male person has mother, wife, all the sons, all the daughter. Equally they will get. If you don't have to make a will, then they will get equally. But if you made a will that I want to give everything to my spouse or to both the sons equally, if you have written, then they will have to oblige by that. But if you have not made mention in the will, it will be distributed equally to so many members. So nomination is not the solution. It is one of the facility given by the government. But for succession law or succession matters, this is not the solution. This is the old story that people used to feel that, okay, everything will go to the spouse or whatever. It was there, okay. In India, our tradition, customs is there. The law of Indian succession was made in 1925. And today, after 100 years, we are talking on this. Why? Because that time, nobody was talking about the law. Everybody was following this customs tradition that, okay, family don't discuss, let somebody from the elders take a call. They will take the decisions. But today, when the money has become more powerful than the relation, then this is relevant today, that it is to be known to everybody that everyone has a right on the legal heir. So this old principle is not in use. If you make a will, then everybody will be obliged to do as per the distribution of the wealth. The partner or the elder brother, no, they can't, as per the law. People says that, okay, once I make a will, today I'm just 60 or maybe 55 or maybe 65, I don't want to make a will now because time is there, I will do it later. First of all, we don't know how much time we have got. That is a secret that nobody knows. Secondly, will can be made today as per today's position, whatever asset you have, whatever thought you have got. And you can change it over every year or every month, whatever way you want to do. So change of the will is possible, and so many people feels that, okay, once I made, this is the last will. No. Last will is just a title given to the will. Whichever will you make, it is a last will. But go on renewing or go on changing every 3 years, 5 years. Normally, we have seen that every 3 years, someone has to review the will. If needed any change, they can make a fresh one or leave it like that. Because in real life, changes happen within the family members. Somebody died, somebody born. There could be changes in the asset base. Some big asset was sold and you have taken new asset. So those major changes happening in the life, then make a new will. Or your thoughts have changed. One son is now ignoring me. I have given him so much percent, I want to give less. Even that type of thing. So these are the change situation of the life. You can change the will but that will happen when you review it every 3 years. So making a new will is fine. It's not necessary to register a will. So making a will on a plain paper, sitting in your office here only, it is allowed when it is signed by you, by 2 witnesses of your known relative or people who can help you. So this is the will which is really allowed legally in India. There is no stamp paper required, no registration notary required. These are all voluntary thing. So if you want that, okay, I have signed a will with 2 of my friends as a witness, but I want also government to be a witness. Then you go to registration office, spend half an hour and get your will registered. So that registration is not mandatory. So these are the things people feel that, okay, it's a very time consuming, it is these very painful, this, that. It's nothing like that. You can make a will on a plain paper without stamp paper. You can make in your language. You can do handwritten or a computer. You can just have to have 2 witnesses when you sign. If you want to do registration, do registration after a few days, it is allowed. Now, this will is something which everybody has to make, even if you have a small FD or whatever, or big wealth, or companies or business or whatever. Family trust is the next level. Okay, now 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. So this is an advanced version where succession is being assured. What happens? Why trust is necessary? In a will, you have written something that I want to give it to this person. Okay. But the family members have to take a pain to transfer. If somebody has died, they have to transfer the wealth. Sometimes the property like a land is there or some high value, there may be probate required that this will was final and legal. So that process will take a lot of time. And it may happen that during the distribution, the family members start fighting. So how to avoid those type of risk in a will? If it is will properly executed by the family member with a very happily, mutually agreed, okay, whatever is there, let us distribute. It is fine. But complication arises when they don't agree, or there is a lot of delay, or there is a court process, or some inheritance tax come in the place in future. So those are the situation is a risk. And to avoid that risk, family trust is another solution, where you are creating a family trust for your own wealth. You are transferring some of your wealth to the family trust, and that become the very proper structure where there is no issue of transfer in future, there is no issue of inheritance tax, there is no issue of any claim from any creditor or a matrimonial issue. So that asset protection will happen to this type of thing. So it's a separate entity which you are creating like a locker. So say for example, you have got a jewelry at home and you want to keep it locker for 2 sons. You can create two locker in the bank and keep it for both the sons. So that locker is like a family trust. Similarly, a family trust you are creating for the family with the rules. It can be for 10 years, it can be for 50 years, and they will get the fruits out of it. You can say that, okay, after that, you will have to dissolve, take the money. So this whole process where the wealth, even you are not there, you can drive it for many years. And those difficulties on proper taxes or the transfer process or probate, everything can be removed from that. So who normally creates trust? So basically HNI family members, people with a family abroad, those are the people are normally making a trust because there are some taxation benefit for upcountry and all. And that is the reason that some people are considering the trust is the better option. Family business owners. Family business is something which people are thinking that, okay, I leave the business, but tomorrow I don't know whether some of my family member will be operating it or not, or they all operate and they will fight. So I want to be a guardianship. I want to keep somebody even I am not there. So the trust can be a guardian. Like, the India's largest business is property, the Tata Trust. Okay, so that is something which is being operated very well for many years. The families with a special child, they should create a trust. Some of the Muslim religion fellow, when they have a Sharia restriction, they are creating a trust. And charity purpose. So these are the benefit, the people who are considering the creating a trust very regularly. Viljini, in a brief, we are there for since 2014, and we have been working with various institutions in India, and almost 480 cities we have served for the will writing and trust. 32 countries also, NRIs, we have been there for working with us for their own succession planning. These are the few institutions that are partnership with us for wills and succession matters. So these are the large banks and even wealth advisory companies. Symphonia is our partner. So that way we are reaching out to various people for awareness, and if need, then we also serve them. Media coverage is, well, they are also helping us for this awareness. All the media, every time, whenever there is something, they always approach us to say something, and we always participate on those lines. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. I think I will take it offline because we are running out of short. So witnesses have to appear, one of the witness, not two, one of the witness should appear to the court when there is a dispute happens and family member says this will is not correct, this is not signed by him, or he was unwell. At that time the court will call one of the witness to testify that yes, it was signed before me, he was well, there was no force, and it is signed by him only. That's it. Thank you.
Some of the myths has been busted here on succession. And now that we have got to know about the importance of will and the family trust, I think we should be making use of their services. Thank you so much, sir. I would now call Mr. Suresh to felicitate Mr. Jatin Popat with a memento. Before navigating to our next speaker, we would now like to take a moment to congratulate and recognize a young sports person who is in class 9. Ladies and gentlemen, we are incredibly happy to introduce Ms. Aradhana, who has achieved a remarkable success at both national level and international level in diving. Aradhana is in class 9 and student of the Ashram School. Her achievements include 5 gold medals and 3 silver medals in various categories of events of Sub-Junior National Diving Championship 2023 and 2024. She is also the first ever girl diver from Tamil Nadu to win the gold medal in national level diving championship events. I now request Aradhana and her parents to join us on stage. I also request Mr. Sundar and Mr. Amit Basu, sir, on stage. Aradhana's parents, Mr. Rajesh and Geeta, please join us on stage. I now request Mr. Amit Basu to felicitate Aradhana. What What an incredible achievement, Aradhana. Your dedication, hard work, and talent are truly inspiring. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors. At this point, I would also like to take a moment to appreciate their parents, Mr. Rajesh and Geeta, who have played a vital role in nurturing their child's sports career. Your efforts and unwavering support and sacrifices have helped shape her sports journey. So can we have a good round of applause for our parents? Kudos to both of you and keep doing this. Thank you. So now next, a bend. A bend in the road is not the end of the road. A beautiful quote by Helen Keller, and this is going to be our next topic of evening. I now invite Mr. Janakiraman Rangaraju, Chief Investment Officer, EME India, Franklin Templeton AMC, to put forward his thoughts on markets and economy. Welcome, sir. I request Mr. Sundar to welcome him with Angavastram. Mr. Janakiraman Rangaraju is the Chief Investment Officer, Equities for Franklin Templeton Asset Management Company. He is responsible for overseeing all domestic equity funds. Mr. Rangaraju manages Franklin India FlexiCap Fund, India Primer Fund, Franklin India Tax Shield, and India Smaller Companies Fund. He has been in the investment management industry since 1997. He started his career in 2007 with the Franklin Templeton. Prior to joining Franklin Templeton, he was managing the investment corpus of Indian Sentence Group, a Chennai-based privately held group of companies. Before this, he worked for UTS Securities, Mumbai. He is also a CFA charter holder. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tamil or English? You have to first let me know. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is touch upon 3 or 4 very important subjects, try to give you some clarity about these subjects, and these are the ones which will help you to make a decision now. I fully understand that we are living in a slightly uncertain time with a level of anxiety that we have not seen in the last 3 or 4 years. So let's see how we are able to navigate this. So this is what has happened in the last 4 months or so. The market peaked around September, and from September onwards, markets have been quite weak. I think from the peak of September, large caps are down about 13%, whereas mid and small caps are down about 17 and 19%. This is as things stand today. Now, in order to understand this, we have to ask a question: what led to this? So 3 or 4 causal factors. One, post-COVID surge, demand surge, muted. So there was a slowdown that was slowly emerging. 2024, May, June, the elections happened, lot of distraction, government spending fell down. You also had the RBI trying to restrict the flow of credit into the personal loan category. And fourth, very importantly, you had a large amount of supply of paper. இது வரைக்கும் என்ன ஆச்சுன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா in fiscal 23 and 24, the inflow of capital into the markets from FIIs, from domestic flows, mutual funds, insurance, everything, the inflow was always higher than the amount of supply, which is in the form of IPOs or secondary offers, promoter sell downs, things like that. Now in this year, the expected inflow till about, let's say, March of 25 is about 6 lakh crores put together, all the sources. And the supply of paper is about 7.5 lakh crores. And in any market where the supply is more than demand, there will be a pressure on the prices. So these are some of the 3 or 4 factors that have led to this slowdown in growth. And because of that, we have also seen a weak market environment. But this is the other factor which has led to this weakness. Now, how do you make equity returns? Now, equity returns are a combination of 2 factors: the underlying earnings growth and what happens in the PE movement. Over a long term, it's only the earnings growth that matters. So if you look at what has happened in India over the last 30 years or so, earnings growth is about 13 to 14%. Equity returns are 13 to 14%. So there, the relationship is very tight. But what happens in the short term is, during some times, PE multiple goes ahead of the normal, so which means that returns go ahead of the earnings growth. In slightly pessimistic times, the reverse also happens. The returns actually fall below the earnings growth. What we saw in the last, let's say, 3 or 4 years, is there are times where the PE multiple went well above the normal. So these are the times where the equity returns were more than the earnings growth. If I actually show you the mid and small cap charts, that will be much more visible. So anywhere above the average line, clearly those are the times where the equity returns are more than the earnings growth. Now, in large caps, now you have by and large reasonable degree of margin of safety. Most of the excesses have been taken out because of the market corrections, and valuation has more or less now fallen to the 10-year average. In mid and small caps, unfortunately, still the valuation is at a premium. So there is a certain degree of handicap here, but there is also a positive compensating factor. I'll touch upon that a bit later. Typically, mid and small caps, do you think it should produce a return higher than large caps? Higher or lower? And why? So mid and small caps typically carry a bit more level of risk. Businesses are not that stable. So if you have a large cap company, the longevity is very high. The company will remain in business for 20, 30 years, the next 30 years. In mid and small caps, if you take a universe as a whole, the mortality rate of the businesses is a bit higher. They also go through higher volatility in their business outcomes. Because of this higher level of risk, mid and small caps, in general, as per finance theory and as per the evidence, they should generate a higher return and compared to large caps. Now the next question is how much higher? Now, over a longer term, if you look at the Indian market, there you will see what kind of risk premium does mid and small caps enjoy. Now, the last 5 years, mid and small caps have done significantly better than large caps, additional return of somewhere between 8 to 10%. If you go to the last 10 years, still there is a meaningful gap between large cap and mid cap, but then the gap narrows with small cap. But to get a far more reliable indicator, you generally go in for a longer period of measurement. And there, if you look at it, the gap is actually now about slightly less than 3% for mid caps and more or less the same for small caps. I would say that on an average, mid and small caps, as an investor, you should expect an additional return of about 2% per year. Now, during times where the excess return becomes significantly more than that, then it puts some pressure on the subsequent year's returns. One of the other reasons that has led to this uncertainty in the market is what is happening to the rupee. Two reasons have contributed to this. One, of course, the large amount of foreign sales, FIA sales. Since September, roughly about $50 billion has gone out of the country. And on top of that, we had a small bout of a spike in gold imports in November and December. So that put some pressure on the currency. But has the currency depreciated in an unjustifiable manner? Actually, the answer to that is no. So the rupee has been relatively stable. Calendar 2024, the rupee was down only about 3%. What do you think is the 10-year depreciation, the annualized depreciation of the rupee against the dollar? Exactly. So it's on an average, every year it should depreciate by about 3.5%. And the logic is simply that is the difference in the inflation between the two countries. But in reality, it doesn't happen that way. You have years of less than 2%, and suddenly you'll have 1 year where you'll have a depreciation of more than 10%. I don't know if you just recollect your memory, 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, that year rupee just jumped from 75 to 82. That was a 10% depreciation. So it is lumpy at times, but otherwise what has happened this year, I don't think it is out of the ordinary. I touched upon this topic, large FII flows. Clearly that is putting a pressure on the market in the short term. Now if you ask me, many of the investors and distribution partners have asked me this question, that what is the outlook on that? This is primarily because of course, initially this was triggered by the fact that growth was slowing down in India. Two, the valuations was high. It is also triggered by two external factors. Because of the US election, now on a 1 year basis, US looks much more interesting. There are talks of economic reform, supply side reforms there, so which means that the positivity in US market is a bit high, so capital is flowing more towards US and of course China. So to some extent now, the alternatives are attracting a bit more capital and we are losing out on that. So this is what has happened in the short term. So clearly there is a bit of uncertainty. Now, when you have uncertainty, as an investor, you have to make a decision. And to make those decisions, at least what I do is, I go back to the basic principles. What are the core attractions of India? And if you are just dictating, if you allow your decisions to be dictated by those core principles, I think then the chances of you committing a mistake comes down quite meaningfully. Now, we are in the middle of a very, very attractive growth cycle. Underline the word cycle. The growth always happens in cycles. We'll have phases of strong growth. We'll have phases of relatively weak growth. To give you an example, the 30-year growth of Indian GDP, nominal terms, is about 12.5%. But in 30 years, it's not that even if you take a 10-year block, all blocks have been at 12.5%. So 2000 to 2010 was a much more faster growth phase. 2010 to 20 was a relatively more slower phase. I think now we are in the middle of another growth phase. And the reason is the middle path, the middle box, the investment cycle has kicked in. There are three players in the investment cycle: the government, companies, and people like you and me, individuals. All of us know that government has been spending significantly on CapEx. Private CapEx is recovering. I'll just show you some data for that. And the real real estate cycle is also very much in its upcycle. These three things put together means that we should have comfortably a growth of 6.5% and plus. So in between that, you'll have some periodic short-term slowdowns. And but the point is that 6.5% growth is one which can give you very decent equity returns. And it's not that we are only going to grow 6.5% for the next 2 years. I think this growth is available to us for a fairly long period of time. Like I told you, last 30-year growth, 94 to 2024, real growth is about 6.3%, which means that there is a certain basic level of growth that is there. That itself is 6%. And during good times, we tend to do even better than that. I spoke about the investment cycle and about the role that corporates play. 2004 to 2011, that is a time where the corporate capex went on quite sharply. And then you had almost a decade where corporate capex was stagnating, which meant that as a percentage of their profits or as a percentage of GDP, this number is falling. Remember, investment is a cycle. So you had an upcycle, you had a down cycle. I think we are in the early stages of another upcycle. Of course, this number talks about the actual capex spent. So these are taken by the cash flow statements of the companies. Now this talks about the intent to spend. And typically, the intent converts into actions with 1 or 2 years of lag. So the corporate intent to spend also has been meaningfully going up. Now, to some extent, there has been a fall in the urban consumption demand in the last a year or so. So this is the dark line, which has peaked about a year back, and it's been consistently decelerating. To an extent, this has been triggered by the reduction in the flow of credit towards the personal loan segment. I think the incoming RBI governor has said that this phase is now done with, and this credit restrictions will gradually be relaxed. That and the fact that this budget has given a reasonable amount of stimulus to consumption, I think that means that this also now should start to recover. Just 2 key takeaways from the budget. Again, from an investor's perspective, there are a lot of other conclusions. Consistently, we have been trying to reduce the deficit. And what it means is that the country, let's say, as a country as a whole, you have one side which is the savers. Their savings are used by government, companies, and households. Amongst these three, government is the least efficient user of that capital. Whereas if that same capital is used by companies or households, the productivity of that capital tends to be much better. A falling fiscal deficit means that government does not absorb too much of the savings, and more of the savings is left for the productive parts of the economy. That is the very positive outcome from this pattern. And I told you the fact that there was a short-term weakness as far as consumption demand is concerned, and the government has come out with a stimulus package worth about 1 lakh crores, and I think that should give a boost to the consumption in at least over the next year or so, and one hopes that the economy itself picks up momentum before that time period. Ultimately, equity returns are made by or are driven by earnings growth. And I think we are at an earnings growth of about, this year will be relatively on the lower side, 10%, because of what happened in the first half of the year. Like I told you, a fall in government capex, and to some extent a fall in a slowdown in urban consumption. I think next year that earnings growth consensus number looks to be about 14% or so. If you ask me from here, if we take a 3-year outlook, I expect for large caps to have about a 12 to 15% earnings growth. And given where large caps stand, you have a fairly high likelihood of that earnings growth translating almost fully into equity returns. The path upwards has been littered by a lot of corrections, but during the times of corrections, again, like I told, just focus on the basics. Unlike some of the other Asian countries, ours is by and large a domestically oriented economy, especially in the case of savings and investments. Exports and imports are one thing, but for a country like India, which is now in the midst of an investment cycle, the question to be asked is, do we depend on external sources of capital for this investment cycle? Now, if that is the case, then that imparts an element of risk into the overall thesis. Large countries like India and China, for example, they have a fairly large domestic savings, and bulk of our investments are by and large met by these domestic savings, which means that the stability of this growth is relatively more assured, and during times of uncertainty, you can go back to those basic points, take comfort from them, and take decisions with reasonable amount of optimism. Again, like I told you, by and large, you will have some ups and downs in the form of some years returns being higher than earnings growth, in some years the other way. But if you hold on to equities for about 5 years or so, from that period onwards, equity returns and earnings growth should move in tandem. Now, so finally, what to do now? So these are the longer term advantages. I've also told you about those short-term weaknesses that we are now facing. The basic the basic factors that I mentioned, what is driving equity returns, earnings growth, and the starting PE multiple. Today, earnings growth for large caps about 12 to 15%. Large cap valuations are more or less in the neutral zone. So the conclusion is that high probability that you'll have that same 12 to 15% getting translated as equity returns also. But what is the picture in mid and small caps? And that is where the market has seen a reasonable amount of volatility and correction over the last 3 or 4 months. Now, if you go back to that valuation slide, sorry for just jumping around like this. Here we go. Now we are at a point where if you take a 3-year view, one has to assume, or one has to prudently assume that your exit multiple will be more or less in line with the long-term average. And today the multiples are above the long-term average. So which means that for small and mid caps, what you need to consider in your return estimations is that you will lose somewhere about 15 to 20% in terms of fall in PE multiple over a 3-year term. Now this is the handicap that you start with. The advantage that small and mid caps give you during this 3-year term is that they tend to have a higher earnings growth. Now, one of the reasons for small and mid caps higher earnings growth expectations is the fact that they are much more linked to this investment cycle. So during the investment cycle, especially during the positive phase of the investment cycle like we are in right now, small and mid caps tend to have a better, faster earnings growth. Now, if they have about a 5-6% earnings growth advantage over large caps, and on the other side, you also need the P multiple to come down by about 5-6% a year, for if you take a 3-year base period, then effectively you are looking at returns converging more towards the large caps. Simple example, a 3-year earnings growth of, I'm just citing some examples to explain the math here, a 3-year earnings growth of 18%. From that 18%, if you remove about 5 or 6% a year for bringing this P multiple down to the average, then you are looking at 12 to 13% equity returns, which is very much close to what the large caps are also expected to deliver. So one of the messages is that in mid and small caps, today to make a reasonably good returns from this, your holding period has to be at least 3 years. That is one. Second, the returns in mid and small caps are likely to more or less converge with large caps. So the kind of outperformance that we saw from mid and small caps in the last 4 to 5 years, I think that is going to moderate meaningfully. I'm still not in the camp which says that you should sell all mid and small caps. The logic behind this view is that primarily we are in the beginning of early stages of an investment cycle. So which means that still there are about 4 to 5 years of reasonable growth that is visible. And like I said, mid and small cap companies tend to do much better in terms of growth during this period. So these are the two main reasons why I am saying that they are still capable of delivering returns, but only that you have to be a bit more modest about the return expectations. I will just highlight 2 or 3 of our products which are a bit more suitable for current environment. Okay, before that, I am of the firm view that investors should look beyond returns. Of course, you should be interested in returns. Ultimately, you make your investments only for getting those returns, but that do not tell the full picture. You should also ask a question, how those returns are being made, because you have multiple ways of generating returns, and you should find a product where the returns are generated in a manner that gives you comfort, that philosophy that you agree with. So this is some kind of due diligence that I would prefer the investors to do. To just give you a very brief idea about the Franklin philosophy, we are generally long-term investors. I'm of the firm belief that in the short term, the market is very efficient. I don't have any information advantage, neither do I have any good trading advantage. So having said that, the conclusion is that I'm as good as any other professional investor in the short term. So our advantage comes when I change that time frame into a slightly longer time frame, which is a typical 3 to 5 year time frame. Most of our investment decisions are made with that horizon. People like me, all the research analysts in the team, all of us are not only encouraged to do so, but even our compensation is linked to 3 and 5 year performances. And if you look at our portfolio turnovers will be relatively on the lower side, primarily because of this longer term approach. Why? Like I told you, it converts our competitive advantages into actually better outcomes. We look for better quality businesses to invest, the last but first row. In this business, almost every investor says that his or her portfolio is a quality portfolio. So quality has got many connotations in our business. We try to measure quality in a bit more objective manner. So for me, 3 metrics: return on capital, free cash flow, and growth. If you combine these 3 metrics, you have only about 180 to 200 companies in the country which are in that quality universe. So that is our hunting ground. And if you look at any of our portfolios, probably 90% of the portfolios will come from that universe. Having said that, I also sincerely believe that every asset has a price. So even a quality stock, if you pay a too high a price for that, the business will continue to do well. But your ability to earn returns out of that will be compromised. So any asset has to be bought at a price which is reasonable. So that encapsulates our investment philosophy, and it is very institutionalized. People may come and go, but the team has internalized this, and which means that even if there is some churn in the people, you as investor will have the same kind of outcome. That's the team. It's a fairly experienced team. It's a fairly stable team, average experience of 17 years, which means that all of us have gone through cycles. The 3 products that I would like to highlight: the FlexiCap fund, sector neutral, gives you a very broad exposure to the market, good combination of large caps and SMID, and it has delivered very reasonably good returns, positive alpha over the last quite a long duration. The other fund that, and quite a few of you would have subscribed to this or would have invested in this. This is a thematic fund, invests in very popular themes: digitalization, rising affluence, and make in India. And this is one of the fund which also tries to capture from this the investment cycle that is going on now. And the third fund that I would like to highlight is the one which probably is a bit more relevant for this current year. In a year where expected returns are going to be in the mid-teens and where you're expecting a high degree of volatility, I think a balanced fund, a hybrid fund, gives you that ability to reduce that volatility, which means that it puts lesser toll on your emotional levels, and it also does that without compromising too much on returns, because if the overall return expectations are in those mid-teens, balance advantage will also more or less deliver a similar returns, or possibly a wee bit less than that, but at a significantly lower level of volatility. So these are some of the 3 of the products that from our stable I would highlight for the current environment. And thank you for patiently listening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the gentleman in.
That was my one point of view. This is not addressed to Franklin, across to any AMC. So the quality of the fund management is also how do we go about it? How do we trust? How do we know that we have our back supported? That is one part of it. And another thing is about when you say from small caps to large cap, the gap over 20-year period, tenure, is just going to be only a difference of 2%, which is the back testing what you have projected. Then why at all have so many small cap, mid cap, micro cap, large cap, and so many things? Probably you can have a multi-cap or a flexi-cap, or the difference is for the amount of risk what we take for small cap, over 20-year period you're just what do you call the beta or the sigma difference is quite less, So it doesn't make any sense to go in for a small cap. That was one part of it. And again, the repo rate, the repo rate which was dropped down, of course you don't have a hand on it, but it has not created any significant murmur. In fact, HDFC has increased the home loan rate. In fact, when it was repo, it is brought down from 6.5 to 6.25, 25 basis point or whatever it is. It should have reflected in some, sentiment. But HDFC has in fact increased the bank home loan rate.
Quickly,
Probably
sir.
your reflections on it.
Yes, quickly, yes. You're absolutely right. Fund manager vintage is one topic one area that you as investors or distributors should focus upon. You should look for funds where the portfolio manager churn is not very high. So which means that if I make a decision, I should be, in the sense, if I cook a dish, I should be available to eat it also. I should not cook a dish and then pass it on to somebody else to taste that. So which means you look at how long are the tenures of portfolio managers. I can only say about Franklin, all of us, yeah, long term, that's one. Second, the 2% advantage that small caps have, over a period of time, that compounding really makes it big. And again, investment is all about choices. You have at the one end a liquid or a fixed liquid or a fixed deposit, low risk, a low return, and at the other end, micro caps. You have to figure out in between where is your zone of comfort, where you are comfortable with that level of risk, and that return also satisfies your requirements, which is why the combinations. But I would say that just a simple flexi-cap product is good enough to meet the requirements of most of the investors. It gives you a good large cap exposure. It gives you about a 30% small and mid cap. You don't need anything else. And in investments, the most effective solutions are always simple solutions. Just stick to that one flexi-cap product which is good enough. And I'm not saying this because I run a flexi-cap fund. Okay? Not my area, that is business development, and there are those minor exemptions, some T30, B30 and all those types. My sales team uses that, but I'm not the person for that. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for the wonderful insight on markets and economy, sir. I now request Mr. Yuvraj, our Symphonia partner from Nasik, to felicitate Mr. Janaki Raman with a memento. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So our final speaker for the day, at last but not the least, Mr. Mahmood Basha, Head Retail and International Business, Baroda BMP AMC, is presenting us with the title, My Juliet, Behave Yourself. Sounds familiar? Yes, it's a famous line from Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. And he's going to explain us about the behavioral biases and how we can overcome them. I request Mr. Sundar to welcome him with Angasri. Mr. Mahmood Basha joined Baroda BNP Paribas AMC in April 2014 and is responsible for retail sales, marketing and distribution strategy of the company. He has 26 years of rich experience, and in his previous assignments, he was National Sales Head for Pine Ridge Investment AMC, and he has also worked for companies like Franklin Templeton Investments and Carvey Consultants. He has completed an advanced program in artificial intelligence powered marketing from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and also holds an MBA from Osmania University, Hyderabad. He is a certified financial planner too. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Vanakkam and good evening to you all. I know where exactly I stand right now between you and the dinner. It's a very difficult position to be in, but I think the next 20 minutes, what I wanted to share is out of my experience in the industry. I'm sure you will find it useful. I want to start with, I need some participation from you over next 20 minutes time. I may ask you your views on certain things. So raise your hand and share your views. How many things that it is important to make return in equity market? Timing is the most important criteria. Can you raise the hands? Those who believe that timing is very, very important. And those who believe security selection or the stocks you buy are important. Very few. How many believe asset allocation is the most important criteria for successful investment? Oh, thank you, sir. There's a very lot of studies done on to understand what actually drives investment performance. And one of the research report that was published in Financial Analyst Journal says that 91% of once an investor performance, your performance as an investor, is dependent on asset allocation, security selection, and timing, which many retail individuals believe that is very important, actually doesn't play such an important role. And this brings me back to what Amit talked about, having a goal and asset allocation as a key for meeting those goals. There are few things as I spent this 28 years in the mutual fund industry, there are few things continue to amaze me or make me think. This is how Indian investors invest in different asset classes. And this is basically highlight the fact that we love real estate, followed by gold, and some money also go into financial asset, including fixed deposit, and small percent of our money goes into capital market product. On the other hand, if you look at performance of different asset classes, I've taken 3 where the data is available: equities, gold, and fixed income. And what we noticed that for any time period you take longer term, 5, 10, 15 years, equity as an asset class has delivered better return than the other 2 asset classes, gold and fixed income. Yet, there's another thing I did. While equity has delivered a good return, how have the mutual funds in India have delivered? So what this chart talk about, if you had a 10 lakh rupees and invested in January 2000 in 5 diversified fund of your choice. So I picked 5 funds which are existent that time. None of them from Baroda BNP Paribas. We were not existent at that point of time. What would have happened to the 10 lakh rupees? That means you have invested in 5 funds, 2 lakh rupees is randomly and stayed invested. The 10 lakh rupees invested as of end of December 2024 is worth 6.3 crores. If you have invested in Nifty 50, it is worth about 2.07 crores. So in simple term, if I convert that into annualized return, Nifty 50 has given 14% return, Whereas this combination of 5 funds, randomly selected 5 diversified equity fund, has given 18% returns, 4% additional return over Sensex. But look at the kind of additional wealth they have created. So equity as an asset class has done well. Equity mutual fund over a period of time even done better than the indices and benchmarks. But yet, you see, this is how people invest money into different financial assets. Less than 10% of the money goes into equities today. So one question that keep coming to my mind, despite these numbers, that for any longer term period you take 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, despite the fact that equity as an asset class done better, help create wealth, why do as an investor, we invest very small money, portion of our savings into equities? There is also another very interesting study done by my fellow mutual fund company. They took a 20-year data. Like in the previous slide, I said that on a 20-year, 24 years basis, equity mutual funds have generated, a portfolio of equity mutual funds have generated about 18% return. So what this fund house did is a very, very interesting study where they said, what are the returns investors have made investing into funds? So they looked at 2 categories, equities and hybrid. What is important to note that if equities on this 20-year period has delivered 19% returns, the returns investors have made in that funds is just about 14%, less than 14%. Funds have delivered 19%, but the investor has made only 14% return in those funds. If you are an SIP investor, your returns are marginally better. You made 15% plus kind of a returns. So here are the investor who has actually made the choice to invest in an asset class which has a potential to create wealth, but ended up with a lower return than where he is invested. So it prompts this question in my mind from time to time, why investor returns are less than the market return, and why investor returns are less than the returns these funds generate. And I keep asking these questions, keep talking to intellectuals and people who have spent enough money, enough time in the market. And I found the answer in this. It is more to do with, and that's what I wanted to share with you today, that share those learnings from you, what I think are the reasons responsible for investor investing lesser money than what they should be investing and making lesser money than what market or funds are delivering. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. One is that. And also some suggestions I would have, out of my own experience in the mutual fund industry. More as an investor, I am not a portfolio manager, but also an investor into mutual fund. What are those things that have helped me over time? What I learned and helped me over time is what I want to share. And to summarize, this is the list of different behavioral biases. What explains why investors make lesser return than the market is how investors behave with their investment. And I was in early stage of my career, I was told that control the controllables. Can we control how market behaves? I don't think any one of us has any control on this. Yes, we have professionals like we had Krishna Sangvi, Janaki Raman, I have Sanjay Chawlas of the world, whose job is to manage what is happening, manage the portfolios, deliver good returns over a period of time. But do they really have a control on the variable that is impacting the market? No. But what is in our control as an investor? How do we behave over a period of time with our own investment? And here is what I've listed, few biases that I think ideally we should be cognizant of and try avoid if we can, otherwise at least minimize those biases. I don't want to give a lecture on what they are, but what I want to do is, if there's some example, tell you how it influences our investment behavior. Okay, let's assume that you are in a hot seat of a KBC and you have 150 lakh rupees, and if the next question is for 1 lakh rupees. 1 crore, sorry. Thank you for correcting. So it's next, if your answer is right, you will earn 1 crore rupees. How many of you will take a chance and say that we will go for 1 crore? Can you raise the hands? You won 50 lakhs, the next question will give you, if you answer it right, it will give you 1 crore. Those who have raised hand, I have a slight tweak to the question. But what if Mr. Bachchan tells you that you will not get 1 crore, but you will get 1 crore 30 lakh rupees after 3 years? If your answer is right, you will not get 1 crore, you will get 1 crore 30 lakh rupees after 3 years. Will you still go for it, or will you say that I will take the 50 lakhs and walk out? Right? Okay, if you go to certain sites like Shutterbugs of the world where you can download some patented images, this is how their subscription model looks. In the first option, you can subscribe by paying $229, and where they're allowed to download some 29 patented pics. The next option, you have to pay a monthly subscription fee of $125. You're allowed to download 50 pics. Which one you think you will subscribe to? It's the second one, right? Why? Because we're doing something called mental accounting. In the first option, a 229 rupees, I have to go back. $229 means that you can get 50 pics. That is $9 for each pic you are paying $9. In the second one, your mental accounting will tell you that you are only paying $2.5 a pic. So which is cheaper? So I said, let's subscribe. But that's the mistake everyone does. Most of the subscribers do. Because you are subscribing here for monthly, you may actually don't need 50 pics. And you end up over a period of time paying more money. Okay, another question. Let's say Rajni made 16% return on investment in mutual funds, and Jaya made 4% return on mutual fund investment. Which fund do you think has done better? This is my question. Sorry? Okay, if I give you some additional information, will it change your view? So Rajni is invested in November 18 and Jaya is invested in August 24. Do you think, will it change your mind? Which fund has done well? Okay, now let's go to the next one. Kamal made 100, his money has doubled in mutual fund investment. Same is the case for Sridevi. Now that you have seen the previous slide, I will also tell you when they have invested. So both of them have invested in 2019. Same day, same month. So which fund is better? Sorry? Okay, I give you further information. So one is the sectoral fund, another one is a hybrid fund. Now? So what I am trying to highlight here through these two examples is context matter. So when somebody comes and tell you, oh look, I made my money doubled, I lost 10% in last 1 month time, please understand the bigger context. Where have they invested? When have they invested? And so on and so forth. Just don't go by this noise. somebody double money, somebody lost 10%, 15%, is without a contest, without understanding full detail, doesn't make any sense. Cut the noise. What you see two alphabets on a chessboard, A and B. Tell me which is darker. A is darker? No? It's the same. It's just the background that is making visually deceptive for you. If, let's say, a product is offered to you at a particular price, you will have a view whether it is cheap or higher. But if the product is offered to a particular price, and then a seller tell you that I am giving you at a lesser price than that, what will happen? You will think you are getting a good value, right? And this is what we call anchor bias. In the first example, I anchored you to think that there is a difference in the shade of those two alphabet by asking you, tell me which is darker. So you anchored that whether there is one is darker, one is lighter color. If I have put that question differently to say that, do you see any difference in the color? Maybe you would have told me that no, there is no, both shades are the same. So that's what called anchor bias, and that's what we most of the time we fall prey to this when it comes to our investments. Here what you see is two kiddie banks, piggy banks, very old way of saving money. I'm sure Sundar would not like you to put money there. We will want you to put money somewhere where it can grow. But assume that you're saving 100 rupees in a piggy bank every day. Two piggy banks you have at home, and one you have put a sticker. And some goal you write there, saying that it is for a holiday, or you say that it is for some child education, marriage, or something like that you write, or buying a home. On the second piggy bank, you write nothing. It's a plain. And if emergency comes, and if you have to break one, which one will you break first? Second? Great. So I don't want to do this. So I'm come to the second portion, second half of my presentation to share certain recommendations out of my own experience as an investor. Like this quote says that all great leaders choose great advisors, people they really trust for their governance. And it has been something you would have seen across industries, across social life, that we always have somebody as an advisor to help us make right decisions. Like even the great Chandragupta had Chanakya as his advisor. So here are my recommendation for you. First is advisor plays a very, very important role in managing these behaviors. I'm sure you have a great advisor in Sundar and his team, but listen to them, take them very seriously, especially when markets are volatile like this. They play a great role in managing those emotions. Second is, it is again out of my experience, start looking at portfolio returns instead of looking at individual security returns or a mutual fund returns. If you have invested across mutual funds, gold, and fixed deposits, and some other instrument, start looking at your portfolio returns from time to time, not just how much my mutual funds have done, how is the gold value has gone up, how is this other security has performed. Everything has a role to play in portfolios, and at any given point of time, one asset class may be doing exceptionally well, one may not be doing that great. So start looking at portfolio returns. That is a great way of managing our own emotions and the reactions to it. The second is a concept called holding period return as against point-to-point return. If you have invested in any diversified equity fund in 2018, 7 years back, today your returns will be 17, 18%. If you have looked at the returns in August, September 2024, it would have been 19%. CAGR now would have come down to 17. Instead of saying in the last 4 months, my portfolio value has gone down 10% and creating pressure for yourself, start as a habit, start looking at whole end period returns. So I've invested in 2018, what is my portfolio return as on today? So I think that will help you avoid lot of those impulsive reactions. And it can happen even on the bull market. If you have invested in 2020 and you should have looked at your portfolio or individual security performance in 2021, you would have said, oh, I made 40, 50% return, let me get out. What happened after that market run up? So it will it will help you manage your emotions and reactions in both bull as well as bear markets. Another thing I would strongly recommend, be away from the noise. There are a lot of, with the technology rising, and there are a lot of self-style gurus that have come into the market. Lesser you listen to them, better it is. Listen to Sundar, Symphonia team than listening to these people. It will help you manage your emotions better. But if you think that none of this works, there are some solutions mutual fund industry itself offers to handle these emotions and avoid those biases. What are they? I'm just listing few of them. This is not a final list. We have something called rule-based funds. And funds, which is also called, there is another category of fund, multi-asset funds. So I'll talk about them in a while. Then there are also solution-oriented funds. And there is also something called systematic investment plan, need no introduction. A lot of you have been investing in it for a long time. So what is this rule-based fund? What is Warren Buffett said that? Be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful, right? So what it says that basically buy when everyone is selling in equity markets, sell when everyone is greedy. And there are this balance advantage fund as a category. I'm taking, this is one of the popular rule-based fund where there is a model which follows this. Increase the allocation to equity when valuations are attractive, when the markets are low, reduce it when markets are peak. And this is done in a very disciplined manner and very tax efficient manner. So when the fund buys and sells stocks or any other securities, there is no taxation. Whether you do it, I do it as an individual, then there is a tax incident. So just to give you an example, at Baroda BNP Paribas, we have an balance advantage fund that uses this model to determine equity allocation. So this fund in existence, I'm just taking this as an example. Everyone in the industry who have this fund have a model, and this is how their equity allocation would have moved. So if you look at here, as the market moved up, the red line, our equity allocation has come down. As the market started correcting, as the market started correcting, our allocation went up. And this is done in a very, very disciplined manner on a month-on-month basis. Fund manager is doing this rebalancing. What has it resulted in? Since inception, that is in 2018 November, this fund returns, if you have invested 100 rupees, is worth 227 rupees. The Nifty during that period also has given the same return. Nifty, for your information, as you all know, is a 100% equity portfolio. In this fund, average equity allocation is only 60%. So with 60% allocation, the fund has delivered returns like a Nifty 50. So it's because that the balancing is done without any emotions. And similarly, we have a multi-asset fund. It is important that you invest across the asset classes that have negative correlation. What these funds do as a category is that they invest in uncorrelated or asset classes which have a low correlation and help you build a diversified portfolio, and there is a rebalancing happening at a periodical intervals, and it's all done in a tax efficient manner. So this is how the example of how our portfolio allocation to equity, gold and other asset classes would have worked. If equity does well, if the value has moved from 70 to 75, next month portfolio manager cut that exposure, bring it back to 70%, allocate to other thing, other asset classes, gold or other asset classes. So the last one is that there are funds called gold-oriented funds. They are like piggy banks with a sticker. What these funds do, their underlying portfolios will be a hybrid or a diversified equity portfolio, and they come with certain lock-in period, and there is also a restriction on who can invest in these funds. And what is the objective of this lock-in and who profile of restricting the profile of investor is to manage your emotions and make your journey smoother. So just an example of those goal-oriented funds, there is a children fund, there is a retirement fund, many in the industry offer this thing. So with that, the last but very important slide is to show you this disclaimers. But again, I would say this, Indian equity markets have delivered historically very good returns, and they will continue to deliver returns. If we can manage our emotions, how we react to market and focus on asset allocation and the goals, I think the journey will be a lot smoother, and advisors play an important role. Listen to them, otherwise there are funds tailored to handle the emotions. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request Mr. Satya to felicitate Mr. Mahmood Basha with a memento. Thank you, sir. Now we are nearing the end of the event, and I now request Mr. Sundar to give his closing remarks.
Hope you all enjoyed the evening. I think thanks to Amit Basu sir for bringing this kind of speakers. I think we had a very diverse set of speakers as mentioned earlier. I think I really enjoyed the event. The first where Amit Basu sir showed that tree, I think that says it all. So what we always focus is the visible. There are also many things which are invisible. I think if we can understand that, I think broad things are being achieved. And the way in which Krishna Sanghvi sir took the entire, he actually simplified most of the very complex items and made us feel that things can be made over a long period of time. And again, a very important topic on will writing by Jatin sir. I think it is an introduction for most of us because we all have wealth in some way or the other. But do we have will? I think most of us don't have a will. And in fact, some of our clients keep asking us, how do we go about it? So that's where we thought we should bring somebody who is a subject matter expert who can explain. So thank you, sir. And again, followed by that, we had Mr. Janaki Raman. I think the kind of experience what he has got and the way in which he actually again explained. And he also gave us a lot of data which is technical in nature, which actually makes us understand where we are in the cycle. And he also broadly eliminated the fear what is currently in the market, saying that over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years, hopefully any investors who is investing, irrespective of the market cap, hopefully should make good returns. And finally, I think thanks to Basha sir for bringing out the biases, because again, with what little experience we have seen, the people who actually don't panic actually makes a lot of money in the long run. And of course, there are good times and bad times, like anywhere. But anyone who stays the course actually makes a lot of money. And the piggy bank thing which he showed, people who actually see a piggy bank with a goal, generally we don't break it. But when you invest without a goal, most likely you will actually get influenced by the noises and all the negative newses. And if you can just stay focused on the goal, like how Basu sir explained on why you are investing, I think that makes all the difference. Thank you for your patient listening and staying all throughout the evening. So now I request all of you to stand up for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you so much. Now I request you to join for the dinner and cocktails. There are 2 counters on your right hand side for the dinner. So please take time, enjoy your food, and the bar counter is also open. Thank you so much once again from the entire Symphonia team. Thank you.